Welcome everyone. I'm Pat McLarin, Seequent Civil Segment Director, and I'm privileged to be joined by Eric Bugeja from buildingSMART today. Eric's going to share with us a little bit about BIM and IFC and how the situation is evolving. Welcome, Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Thanks for inviting us, and look forward to a discussion.
Yeah, no, it should be good just to recap where things are at. But some people, especially perhaps in the ground engineering space, maybe aren't that familiar with BIM and IFC. So could you perhaps start just a bit of information? What is IFC and why is it important for the industry?
Yeah, no problem. Well, IFC is basically an open exchange format that's been developed and maintained by buildingSMART for probably over 20 years now. It allows architectural engineering-based software to openly exchange information. So that information could be 3D geometry, but it's also the information that relates to that 3D geometry typically from CAD-based software.
Yeah.
But just as important, I guess it's the importance of exchanging that information as well as the geometry. Having a standardized open format, well, it means that we can collaborate better. It allows all software vendors to be able to export and import information from each other's software, and then information can just move seamlessly across the life cycle of a project, and data is always available and accessible in a format that can be consumed without a single proprietary software.
Right. And so buildingSMART work with the IFC or create the IFC standard. So you can tell us a little bit about buildingSMART and what your role is there?
Yeah, no problem. So it's a not-for-profit industry group. It was formed quite a while ago, and it was actually software vendors who came together to form buildingSMART in the very early days. I'm the chairperson of the Australasian chapter, and the Australasian chapter focuses not just on IFC, but we also advocate for the use of BIM. We work closely with our members. We work closely with government trying to promote BIM and get the uptake improved. But we also work with our members to get feedback on IFC, on how to make it better, how to make sure it's relevant to people in the industry. And we also have got initiatives like, for example, this year we're going to be rolling out some training certification on the use of Open BIM to make sure that people understand how IFC work, how Open BIM works, and how to apply it properly.
That's great. That's going to be a good development for the region.
Well, it's something that the industry's been calling out for a while, just to get some consistency on how we deploy BIM across the infrastructure projects. So yeah, no, that should be good.
So how, if you look back and the sort of projects that you've been involved in your career, how have you seen BIM adoption changing over time?
Overall, I'd say a little bit frustrating. So I started my career probably about 20 years ago as a mechanical engineer, designing special purpose machinery and for manufacturing automation. I always worked with 3D CAD based software, and I saw that software as a design tool. Now, here we are 20, 30 years later, but a lot of that software isn't seen as design tool. It's still perceived as drafting, visualization, but a lot of it's really important for an engineer as part of their toolkit in the way they develop develop design. BIM's probably been a lot more mature in the building sector, so vertical infrastructure sector, over the last 20 years, and it's allowed the collaboration to happen there, but hasn't really matured for the infrastructure sector. So I guess that's what we're on the cusp on at the moment. The important part about BIM, it avoids rework. So you're minimizing rework, you're improving coordination. And I guess one of the problems has just been the lack of understanding of the benefits and a bit of a resistance to change over the years. I guess this change is not just about changing software or just changing how we design, but it's the whole way we procure projects, the way we share information, the way contracts are put in place to allow that sharing to happen. And now that I work for a tier 1 contractor, it's even more critical to improve the efficiency of the construction sector. As we all know, that's one of the most inefficient sectors at the moment in terms of productivity. So this is an important step to improve that productivity.
So with the advent of IFC 4.3, which is the new version of the standard that's just in the final stages of development, why is IF 4.3 going to be a game changer for infrastructure?
Well, like I said, IFC was originally developed for the building sector, for vertical infrastructure. When it was tried to be applied on linear infrastructure, I guess, it just doesn't work. Like, it was very difficult to make it work because it was built for buildings. So that change now will enable the same benefits that's been happening in the building sector to also be seen on linear infrastructure, just allowing that sort of seamless sharing of information in order to enable BIM. So IFC basically allows the exchange of civil-based information. So it allows open exchange of civil design information between vendors, and that makes it easy to federate information from various software. So, and that's really critical to civil project decision making. For example, geotechnical information or survey information. So what will end up happening is we'll be able to speed up the design process, particularly in the areas of rail, road, and tunnel. So relating that, I guess, back to a ground engineering perspective, which I guess a lot of
going to be of interest to our audience here.
That's right. So if we take that as an example, I know when we're working with our own geotechs in the contracting side, any analysis they do, the design that they're doing it for is really critical. So by being able to bring that design information into their geotechnical analysis software, that helps them really optimize their analysis because they've got some context to work with. Now, if we talk about the reverse situation, what it also means is that geotechnical analysis or geotechnical information now provides context for the designer. So whether that's the road designer, the tunnel designer, geotech is one of the critical elements that they need to take into account when they're designing. So that ability to now bring that information in context into design will speed up that design process quite rapidly. And we'll be having fewer errors, more optimized design, a lot more quicker. That's really going to be the biggest impact. So
and that's the goal, right? Is to improve the productivity. So who's going to benefit from the advent of 4.3 and the adoption in the industry of this new version of the standard?
In essence, it's going to be everyone who's involved with a project. So if you're looking directly, it's going to be not only the design team who can openly exchange, but what it allows to happen is that other disciplines can now utilize that information. So whether it's the planners, the estimators, the construction team, the asset owner, they don't need to run proprietary software to get access to that information. They're able to bring it into their own software that can bring in that open format. So it starts to open up the access to that information. So that's probably the direct benefit. Indirectly, it just means we can deliver infrastructure projects a lot more efficiently. So all those publicly funded infrastructure projects will be getting more bang for buck because we'll be able to do more with less because we're a lot more efficient in how we deliver. As we know, there's not many infrastructure projects at the moment that run on time and on budget and don't,
it's the
have
biggest,
those issues. They're high risk projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you got your crystal ball out, what would you say the future looks like for BIM open standards in the infrastructure space?
Hopefully with broad adoption, and I think we were talking earlier that I think in terms of adoption by vendors of IFC, 4.3 has probably been one of the most rapidly adopted and embraced formats because I think there's been all the vendors have realised the demand for this to happen. So once that starts to happen, I think it's just going to enable greater sharing of information across the life cycle of an infrastructure project from the very early days all the way to handover and operations. So it's just going to open it up. So like I said, more project participants can now use that information, access that information, and they'll be able to unlock those benefits of BIM, not just in the design phase, but in the other phases of a project. So, longer term, we're going to be speeding up the delivery of infrastructure projects, reducing costs, hopefully get better designs, fewer surprises that we always tend to get on infrastructure projects.
That's right. They're trying to avoid those unwanted surprises.
Exactly.
Well, thanks, Eric. I mean, that's just a great summary of what the future could hold with 4.3 and the adoption of it. So thanks for taking your time today to share with us a bit more of your insights and thoughts on where this is heading.
No problems. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Eric.
Cheers.